This is the Animal Intuitive Show, and we talk about all things having to do with animal wellness and giving animals a voice through animal communication and also sorry, I'm being told it's got too much gain. Through giving an animal a voice through uh, animal communication and advocating for them. So sometimes we have interviews with guests, but tonight I am talking about a topic that I feel is very important. And yes, my husband, I'm very happy that he was here to help. I appreciate him for that. And thank you guys for sticking around through that. We had a little volume issue if you're coming in for the replay, and I've cut that whole thing out. So welcome everyone. It's good to see you all here. I'm sorry I haven't been here for a couple weeks. Things just happened and I'm so sorry. Are comedians now teaching key principles of animal communication? Well, hopefully I will not have this have a copyright strike with this, because this is educational and fair use and all of that. And I wanted to play you a clip from a comedian who was talking about a topic that I think really relates to animal communication and is very valuable. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about that in detail. So one thing I do want to mention, nothing is said in this that's like off color, as they say or used to say, I don't know. But this is a comedian named Theo. I think he's very funny and he has some really interesting insights into things. But he, isn't always like the cleanest of comedians. So just letting you know that, because I put the link below. And if you were to go and watch this and you are sensitive about that kind of thing, be aware of that. Sometimes he uses curse words. So thank you so much, MLMAC2, for encouraging people to hit the thumbs up and the like and the subscribe and the share, because I always forget. And my theme music didn't play, my intro. It's definitely a Halloween ghost in the system situation tonight. So let me get this up here. Gia is here tonight, as you can see. Okay.
It's about animals and humans, all right? I think humans, I got this theory that like animals, because animals are on 4 legs, right? They're on 4 legs. So they're like really connected with nature, Humans are kind of the only species that isn't super connected with nature. We are, but we're also kind of not. And one of the things that I was thinking about was, because animals, they're on the earth, right? Their hands touch the earth and their legs, right? And so the earth kind of like, it makes a circuit through their body. So, they have a completed circuit with the earth. And so it's like everything that the earth is, all the nature that's inside of the earth and the elements of nature, that goes right through the animal, through its whatever legs or feet or arms, and comes out, it's just part of the circle, part of the cycle. And then humans, we're standing up. So we're kind of like this loose cable where it's like you got the energy, like the connection from the earth comes in, but then it starts rattling because it's not getting out. And I think that's one of like, I don't know if that's like, if that made us develop like some of the way that we think, because we have all this weird and like this energy that doesn't have like an outlet. Some other animals that are on 2 legs, you have.
Okay, so this is a video. Hold on. Wait a minute. I wasn't ready to play that actually yet. Let me go back to me here and go back to my camera. Okay, so I'm going to play that in a second. And happy birthday. Who's happy birthday? Good night, Owl. Happy birthday. Hope you're having a good day. And Belated birthday. Okay. Happy belated birthday. I hope you had a good one. Um, yeah. Oh, thank you for putting that link there, and I'll have that in the description too. Um, yeah, he's yeah, it wouldn't be like a scientific theory. It's definitely a comedic kind of a thing. But it struck me because I was like, this is so like for him just to, he's like coming up with stuff and he does stuff like that. He just sort of like I don't know, commentates on things and philosophizes and he's very funny though and he has a unique perspective sometimes on things. And uh there really is something to what he's talking about, and it really relates to what we do with animal communication and how important what he's talking about is with being connected with the earth. And so a lot of people have heard of this concept of earthing, and it's actually been proven scientifically. So earthing is connecting with the earth, going out and in some way directly having contact. So without shoes or putting your hands on the ground, somehow your skin is actually coming into contact with the earth. And there have been studies done about it that have proven its benefits. So just to give you a little bit of a background, and I hope that I get this right because it was a little sciencey, and I asked my husband to come on and do this, but he's very resistant to being on camera. In fact, I think I'd spoken on the show a while back about doing a show with him, and we're still working on that because he, I think he has some things that could be great to have on. I've kind of moved away from the true crime idea because I think there's kind of enough, out there about that, but I had an animal spin on it, but he was going to do some things that he does with carpentry. But anyway, he's very good at everything when it comes to anything like with your, electricity or even plumbing and carpentry wood stuff. So I went to him, talked to him about it, and I was like, you should just come on here and explain this. But he would not do it. So unfortunately, I'm going to take a stab at it. That's my Halloween contribution. So, Dr. Karen Becker is a well-known holistic veterinarian, and she actually did a video about this as well. And I put that in the description as well. If you want to go watch the real like science explanation by a real, somebody who really knows what they're talking about, she actually interviewed someone named Clint Ober, who's the person who really kind of brought this to the forefront in recent years. Although it seems like there was some things many years ago, like back in time, that were just talked about, but for some reason, I don't know what happened exactly, but they sort of got brushed aside. So Clint Ober is the innovator behind the grounding movement and author of Earthing, the Most Important Health Discovery Ever. And he first started to think about grounding when he was installing cable TV systems, and that was in the 60s, actually, so a long time ago. Yeah, I have, if you're on my Instagram page, there are some videos he didn't know about. Our friend totally betrayed me and told him that there were some videos on Instagram that he didn't know. So he's not much for social media. But anyway, Ober first learned about this back when he was installing cable TV systems, and he was curious, if we lose contact with the earth, how does that affect our health? So he rigged up this device to ground himself while he was sleeping, and he noticed that his chronic pain began to subside. And he started to do sort of like these studies about it on his own. And then an anesthesiologist got connected with him, and they did a little bit of a bigger study on cortisol with 60 volunteers. And the outcome of that study seemed to indicate that there was a real impact on the human stress hormone cortisol when these volunteers were connected to the earth. So he had two ways of doing it. He had this device where you could be sleeping and it would connect to the earth. I guess it would go like out the window and connect into the ground. and then also people just connecting their skin to the ground. So from there, it went on to bigger studies, and you can actually, read about some of these studies. There's one on PubMed, or there's probably more than that, but there's one that I was reading on PubMed, which is a good site to look up studies. And he found that as soon as people were grounded, they went from a sympathetic, or that fight or flight physiologic state, to a parasympathetic state, or a calming state, more relaxed. And during the grounding of human or animal with the ground, this seems to cause this change in your state of being. So Dr. Karen Becker went into more detail, but she mentioned as an example, if you have, and this is important because it applies to us, and it gets into health issues too, and how not being connected to the earth affects our health. But this also definitely applies to animals. So she was talking about like a cat that's in a high-rise building and is never outside, never connects to the earth. And she was talking about how this kitty can't benefit from the negative surface charge of the earth, which provides an abundance of electrons that move very quickly to reduce the charge in the body. And when you don't have that, the body begins to deplete itself of electrons. But by grounding the body, we're able to gather free electrons from the earth and have the ability to combat free radicals. This is especially important because of EMFs that we're bombarded by in our homes: wireless routers, appliances, electronics. So she gave this example of like pouring water on fire. So the fire, of course that would help with pain, but the reason for that is you're connecting the body to the earth, and because you're flooding the body with these free electrons, they are readily absorbed by the bodies. They reduce free radicals and prevent oxidizing healthy cells, oxidization of healthy cells. So many experts believe that all disease is caused by chronic inflammation over extended periods of time. And she was agreeing with that for animals, and saying that most diseases do have their root in chronic inflammatory processes. So a contributing factor to this is lack of grounding, or earthing. And they did actually a study of young athletes that shows that inflammation doesn't manifest as much in bodies that are getting these grounding experiences. And when people have ungrounded physical bodies, there's more inflammation. And another study confirmed that red blood cells also equalize with the earth. Red blood cells take on a negative surface charge from the earth. So it's like magnets. The negative and positive ends of the magnets pull towards each other. And Clint Ober provided that this study, that earthing absolutely does have a positive effect on physiology. Disconnecting the blood, so the blood gets sticky, and it helps to, like, the sticky blood can't get to the capillaries, and earthing oxygenates and helps with the blood becoming unsticky and movement and all of that. So Dr. Becker says it's very true that pets, not just humans, really have this going on. She said that unless you're in an ER practice, vets in like a regular practice, not in an ER, find that most of their clients are chronic degenerative diseases, except for, of course, coming for preventative. So she was basically saying that it's an epidemic. And I think that's really important for our pets' health. It's something for us to keep in mind. And then we, of course, some of us have this issue with, we can't necessarily have our cats running around outside. We don't want them to be. So we have to come up with other solutions, like maybe letting them out on a harness if you're, don't want them to be free roaming cats. And there's definitely health benefits to not being free roaming cats too. And I'm not saying just to let your cat out because of this. That's a personal choice. I don't tell, it depends on your situation. If you want your cats to be free roaming, there's no judgment there. There's pluses and minuses about that. But if you can't and don't want them to be free roaming, which like I don't, where I am, it's not a good idea. So I let my cats out under supervision. They have harnesses. And it can be a little tricky because they get used to it and they feel that they should be doing it all the time. Like last night when we were um, trying to get my cat inside because she got out the door when I brought the dogs in. That was fun. But this also relates to animal communication. Now, I know he was getting in that video, I use that as a funny, lighthearted example of this because I just thought it was a nice change of pace and it was interesting that he had this insight. I don't know about the whole like the complete circuit thing that he mentioned with animals having four paws on the ground and all of that. But animals definitely, and I'm sure everyone here has seen this with their own dogs, they want to connect to the earth. They'll roll. You can just tell, they'll get on their backs and do that. And oh yeah, so the grounding mat, she mentioned that because Dr. Becker is connected to Dr. Mercola, and Dr. Mercola, unless now, this was kind of an older video, I think it was 2018, but at the time Dr. Mercola sold grounding pads. I'm sure there's many other places that sell them, but she was doing this for, partly for that reason, to advertise that. But she said that her cats and dogs go to those, her pets go to those grounding mats. And it was interesting because she mentioned they do it when it's going to, even like a day, 8 hours even before it's going to lightning and thunder, they will start to gravitate towards these grounding pads. If you've never heard of those, they sort of mimic the earthing idea. So that was kind of the whole point of the video, was getting people to buy these, I'm sure. But I'm sure it wasn't just that. She wants people to be aware, but yeah, I like Dr. McCullough's. He's got some, I know he gets some flack, but I think he's got some really good products and I use a lot of his stuff. So, yeah, it's really interesting how we get away from doing it. We going out there and connecting with the earth. To some degree, it's just what's available. Like where I am, it's hard to do that. I don't have, it's kind of awkward holding this microphone, but it wasn't set up like this originally. So it's difficult where I am. You'll probably be stepping in dog pee and things like that. But that's why I guess, they have these mats. But I wanted to talk about this too, because earthing is an excellent way to prepare for animal communication. It's almost like a nice little cheat. Like if you're feeling like you're in your head and you're not grounded, just going out there and connecting with the earth and touching the earth and walking without shoes in the earth, and it really changes how you're feeling if you can especially do it for any extended length of time. If you can do it up to a half an hour, it's great, but that's not always possible for everyone. But as much as we can, it can really help to prepare for communicating with animals, and animals are showing us this all the time. So I wanted to play this video because I actually wasn't planning on getting into this whole other aspect of this as deeply, but my dog Cheyenne, she this morning, it's interesting how these things work. I was bringing her in from the outside and she did not want to come in. So this is her. And you see how she's looking away from me? That's her, like, defiant, like, I don't hear you. I don't see you. I don't hear you. Wow, that's incredible. Good night, owl. Your first dog was an outside dog, except during severe cold. He lived to be 20 years old and never went to the vet. He passed peacefully in his sleep. That's amazing. Yeah, that's very interesting, right? Yeah, the pets are no longer safe. Yeah, they can't. It's hard. It's difficult. I mean, I definitely, yeah, she's like tuning out. I do not hear you. I do not see you. So it's important that we listen to them. And this dog will, if I'm getting a little bit too, like, I have to do a lot of computer work for this business. I'm thinking about if anyone ever wants me to do a show about what it's like to have a business as an animal communicator, uh, let me know in the chat or in the comments because that's a whole different, it's a different level, and it does take a certain amount of discipline around the balance between more and more as time goes on. There's so much to do with like computer work and social media, and all these things have gotten more and more. It used to be a lot of it was like word of mouth when I first started out, and now you have to do a lot on the computer. And she will come in and look me in the face, like plant her paws in the ground and bark at me, and like it's like she's trying to snap me out of it and say you need to go outside. It's not like she's saying that. She is saying that. She picks up when I get to a certain point where I really need to get out of here, get outside and get away from the computer. She picks it up, and I often find that she then needs more of being outside, and she will really want to roll around. So they're picking up our energy too. So we have to keep that in mind. Yeah, it's amazing how it was so different when I started out as an animal communicator. You know, first of all, we didn't really do online courses. It was in person, and you would go to these like retreats, and it would be this immersive thing for days. And I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. People do want, especially what we all went through with the whole past few years. You know, I really got more into developing more and more online stuff, and that's very good because then it can be shared with a lot of people. You don't have to travel, but it really is incredible to get into that state where you spend days being just totally immersed, connected with nature, doing animal communication, um, you know, away from all this stuff. And it's just like the information is just there all the time. Like you're walking around like that. You're just receiving, you're in touch with nature on a different level. It's amazing. Yeah, that's the indigenous people of Australia do this. That is interesting. Thank you, Jataro Kali. I don't know if you've been here before, so welcome. And I'm sorry if you have and I don't remember, but welcome. So animal communication, if you want to really get yourself prepared and ready to do animal communication, go outside, walk around in the earth, you know, just ground yourself that way. It's a really easy way to do that, especially when people who have trouble with meditation are preparing to do animal communication. Sometimes people can get more into that meditative state by going outside and doing that first. And I have never owned one of those grounding pads. I don't know. Did somebody say? I do appreciate your thoughts and questions. Thank you, Melmac, for sharing that. Did somebody say they've owned a grounding mat? Because I've never used one, and I'm curious. You've heard of a company years ago that made special grounding shoes for those that don't want to walk barefoot outdoors. That's interesting. Oh, Judy Ann, you have a grounding mat. It's just grounded through the electrical grounding wire. How do you like it? Do you feel like it works well? I'd be curious to know. So, okay, you do. Do you like it? Do you find that it's helpful? So, also, I don't know if anybody was here for animal communication. I am doing that tonight, and that's pretty much my little lesson. Oh, thank you for saying my hair looked nice. Thank you, Mel. um, you have one, but it must be skin touch. Well, okay, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, it sounded like the one she, and oh, and I don't know, I kind of searched around that site of Dr. Mercola's. I didn't see his mat there anymore, so I don't know why that is. But I'm sure there's other ones out there. I don't know the quality or anything, but with him, I can kind of trust that it's high quality. But so, well, I sleep fairly covered up. I get cold, so I haven't given it a fair chance. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. You were trying to use it for sleep. Okay. Um, yeah, I just think it's nice to know maybe there's options out there for people whose pets can't go outside. Maybe elderly pets, maybe you have trouble with like getting them outside with steps or something. I don't, it's a nice option. Oh, there's many on Amazon. Okay. Sure, it's good to look into the quality a little bit. You never know, but anyway, thank you. That's good to know. So, I don't see any questions that anybody has about animal communication or any other comments, but I wanted to share that information because I think it is really important, something we forget. It can be going into winter too here where we are, especially in the East Coast. It definitely becomes an issue because I notice it. The ground gets covered by snow in the winter, and you just, you start to notice like you're just not really connected with the earth. And you can go out and like trees are wonderful, of course, because you can connect in with trees. There's more and more studies coming out about trees and how they communicate, scientific studies, and we can connect in with trees and do communication with nature too. But it's really nice to be able to walk in it, for sure. So, right. Well, I recommend that you try that if you're going to do animal communication, and you can, as I always mention, I teach animal communication. I have courses online, and there's meditations and things that help you do that. And also on here, there's some exercises too. Oh yeah, sure. Did you have any? Sure, Carol. What's your question about little Angel? Carol's dog is Angel, and we talked with her a few times. I'll wait for Carol's response. And Judy Ann. So, how important are things like opening chakras for communication? It's okay. So, the way I would put it is that it's important to be centered. So, having chakras that are open is different than maybe saying that the theory being that they're spinning sort of in the right direction. And that links into the concept of meridians. Thank you, Melmac. That links into the concept of traditional Chinese medicine and meridians, which we are able to access with acupressure points. And I have many videos on here about that. And I have a recent class about that on, if you go to my website, which is intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. It's in the description. And there's definitely like an HTTP thing. So I would just go to the description to find that. But if you go to my website, there is a class, Animal Communication, Acupressure, and Mindfulness for you and your pets. And that's the basis of that course, was helping people to get themselves centered and grounded. And in that course, I talk about the chakras, and I just think that it's the important thing is to feel centered, to get out of our heads and to feel grounded. So, to feel like every time you do animal communication, you have to open your chakras That's a kind of a, I guess in a way it's like a technical issue, and it's sort of what is going to work for you. Um, if you do feel like you're opening your chakras, if that's something that you do, make sure that you are protecting yourself when you're done, because some of this stuff is like, it's kind of esoteric. It's sort of hard to put you know, it's not necessarily like scientifically proven and studied. And I like to refer to the science of things as much as possible. But you can't always do that when it comes to things like animal communication, although there are some studies, and but more with telepathic communication, not necessarily animal communication. So I think it just comes back to do what feels right to you. If you're using meridians, like, you know, this is a meridian point that I talk about. This is a meridian, an acupressure point. This is an acupressure point. This is an acupressure point. And I find that these are very grounding. This is another one. I have videos on all these, but um, getting your meridians, the energy moving through your meridians helps you to become more grounded and open to receiving the information from animals and also communicating the information to them. It's kind of a roundabout, long-winded way of explaining that. So, will I be teaching part two in the future? So, you know, I haven't yet. I have a part two group, and I have a part two, level two, I should say, um, private classes, and I have a level two group. And that is, I don't have a digital product like that, like I do for the, I have a level one that's group and private, and I have a level one intro, which is the one I was just referring to, that you can go on and purchase at any time. So I don't have a level two that is quite like the one I just did, if that's what you're referring to. But I do have group classes. So if you go to that website and you go to the courses page, it will link you right to any classes that I have coming up. And there is a group level two that is starting, and I always have level two private classes too. So yeah. And also, just to let people know, if for some reason you're coming in and you're interested in a class and we're like in the middle of one, or one hasn't started yet and you don't see it, just get in touch with me. I'll get you on like a list and update you. And also, I do offer the opportunity for people to do their own little groups. Like if you have people you want to take it with, um, we can talk about that too, if you want to organize your own group. Yeah, and I'd love to have you take that. So I always like to see people keep going with their communication training and practice. So I would love to see you there. And I do have a certification available to become a professional animal communicator too on that website. I don't know if that worked. I asked Angel likes to pull my Carol. I know that we talked about Angel wants to pull your wheelchair, and you're saying I don't know if that worked. Do you mean you're not sure if she heard you? Like you've been trying to do the communication with her? Because I know that was something we talked about, was like some things you might want to do some practice with her. So were you wondering if she heard what you were saying, or I'm not totally clear on the question. Yeah, that was just something that I talked about in a recent video with Angel, because she she had a couple things, like she wanted to. I know Carol was concerned because she was really attracted to this river, and she had gone in at some point, and it wasn't good that she did that. I think there was ice, and somehow she ended up in there. So I was encouraging her to keep practicing communication with her. And I do have a free meditation on my website. I say this like every week. I feel like a broken record, and I apologize that I'm always saying this, but on that website, there's a free MP3 that you can listen to. It's a meditation for communicating with animals. And so that's a good thing to do if you have to keep repeating something. Like there's certain things, behaviors and things that we're trying to help our pets change. And there are certain things that we have to repeat to them. They're animals and they don't, if we're trying to change a behavior, they're not necessarily like overnight going to change a behavior. Sometimes we need to keep reinforcing it with them. They have the ability to understand things on not just, being all in their instinct and just doing things out of instinct. They have the ability to understand and they have feelings and emotions, of course, but sometimes they go into their animal selves. They revert into, I mean, they're animals. So if they're having that impulse that they want to do something, sometimes like until we get them, we have to remind them sometimes, many times even. So I would encourage it to do that. Yeah, I'm not sure what the question was, Carol, because I don't know. It says I don't know if that worked. I asked if Angel likes to pull my wheelchair. Yes. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. If she likes to pull your wheelchair. Okay. And I wish I could bring her picture up. I don't have access to it right now, but she was in another episode. So let me see if she likes it. Yeah, I get enthusiastic, excited, and I think now that I'm remembering this, the topic of her harness or something had come up because I think I was picking up something about her pulling the last time I talked to her, and you said, "Oh yeah, she wants to pull my wheelchair," and I think there was like a little bit of maybe a little concern. I was like, "Oh, is that okay with you?" Because I don't know if you want her to do that all the time. If you have the control that is safe when you're in the wheelchair. But she does like it. If I feel like for her it feels like a job. I feel like her mind gets really engaged in it and she feels extremely focused. Like, if we have distracted energy, kind of what we're talking about tonight, like where maybe we're just our energy gets like up in our head, and I feel like for her doing something like that, I get this sense of focus that takes that energy and puts it into something and it feels positive is the best way I can describe it. Now, the question, if you're okay with it and it feels okay with you, I don't know if it's totally safe or not. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm assuming you wouldn't be asking unless you were okay with that. If you're saying you're wondering if she likes it. Let me see if there's just anything I missed on that too while I'm waiting for your response. Okay, so the one thing I'm getting though is she gets confused about what direction to go in. That's the one thing. Sometimes she says she gets confused. She is a marvelous puller. Oh, nice. Okay. And I agree. She puts her head down and travels across the pedway on the way to the dog park. You are absolutely correct. I love it. The best ride of my life. That's great. And I think you say, look, we don't really say, you're in Canada, I believe. You've mentioned that on here, I think. I hope I'm not revealing anything you don't want me to. That's why it says pedway. Um, but yeah, they do like having jobs, these dogs. It is good for them. So, uh, oh, okay. If there's any questions beyond that, if anyone has anything, I don't see anything else. I just want to thank everybody for sticking with me through the volume issue. And, if anybody is watching and they're interested in having me talk to their pet next time, you can come here and I put a link in the description. I've talked to Angel, so it was a little different, but and I know sometimes Carol and I have trouble connecting on here, so it was probably better just to follow up like that. But you can follow up in the chat with questions, but you can also come on and be up on the screen, and you can put the camera on your pet if they're able to. That's always nice. People like to look at the animals. If you're willing to do that. You can also send me a picture ahead of time if that's all too intimidating for some people or confusing. Send me a picture before the show. It's nice for me. I don't really check my email right before. I'm usually a little bit too into getting ready, and it's nice to have it a little ahead of time. And there's information about that in the description, but I just ask that you tell me their name and not detailed information. But if you have a question, just let me know the question. If you're just wanting me to tune in with them and tell you anything that's on their mind or things that they would like or just general stuff, let me know that. And the pedway is a footbridge across a quite wide river. Okay, it takes her 37 seconds to cross. Exactly 37 seconds. Okay. She is a cool dog. I'm glad that you have her. She seems like a really good companion for you and caretaker in a lot of ways too. You guys have a really neat relationship. So, yeah, definitely stop by the website and get the free meditation. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a fun Halloween weekend coming up, or Monday's Halloween. So I hope things are fun for people. Stay safe. This would be a time to keep your cats inside, actually. I should have thought of that when I was talking, because it is Halloween and they do say things can get a little weird out there. So this would be a time to make sure your pets are protected, especially your black cats and your white cats. So I appreciate that, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and everybody have a great weekend and a great week, and I hope to see you next time, and God bless.